The CEO of Ryanair is Michael O'Leary. He joins me now. Michael, good to see you as ever.
Morning,
you know
Manus.
what? I helped your numbers this summer. Took a couple of your flights, but give me your sense, Michael, of the challenges that are to come. I had IAG and I had Air France. They're talking about a tough time ahead. How do you see the road ahead in the next quarter and into early 2020?
I think this winter will be challenging, Manus. I mean, in the case of Ryanair this morning, you know, we've reported strong numbers. Traffic up 11%, but only on the back of average fares down 5%, which is why I suspect we welcomed you on a couple of flights this year at even lower prices. Ancillaries continue to be strong, but costs are under control. I mean, I'd be a little bit more optimistic over the next, looking out into the next 12 months. We've seen further consolidation here in Europe. We've seen the failure of Thomas Cook. Other airlines like Eagle Azur, XL Airways have all gone bust. Norwegian is teetering on the edge. And I think also the delay in the Max aircraft, now we're looking at probably only taking about getting 20 of those aircraft, if any, for next summer, means there will be a lot less capacity added to the marketplace next summer. With oil, and on the back of lower oil prices, I'd be more optimistic out into next year. But the next 2 quarters through the winter will be tough.
OK, let's pick up on a couple of those. Thomas Cook and 8 other carriers went belly up in the past year. So the structure of this market has irrevocably changed. Does that mean you will not have to take capacity out?
Absolutely. We won't have to take capacity out. If anything, in actual fact, we're scouting around looking for more aircraft to keep. We're postponing aircraft sales, we're extending aircraft leases, and our subsidiary in Austria, Laudamotion, has secured another 3 aircraft arising out of the failure of Thomas Cook to try to maintain that growth. But all of this just counterbalances the fact that originally in our plans we expected to have 60 MAX aircraft flying in the summer of 2020. We'll only have 20 at best. So we will only grow. Next year, we had originally planned to grow by 10 million passengers from 153 to 163 million passengers. Now we'd only grow by about half that rate to probably about 157, 158 million.
Is that a demand slippage or is that capacity slippage from not having the aircraft?
We don't have the aircraft. No, we just don't have the aircraft.
Okay.
I mean, I think, and we're seeing that the capacity slowing down, which is probably a slightly better outturn for shareholders in the next 12 months on the fares and yield side. I mean, the big challenge in Europe in the last 2 years has been too much capacity, too many loss-making airlines like Thomas Cook, like Norwegian, higher oil prices. I get the sense next year we're moving into an era, or certainly a year, of lower oil prices. We're already hedging our oil at $10 a barrel less than we did in the last year, and less capacity growth. So hopefully there'll be a better outturn for the airlines.
Oh, let's go for a headline, O'Leary. Where do you reckon oil prices can go to in 2020? How low can they go?
I mean, like everybody else, honestly, I haven't a clue. But, you know, if you look at the amount of political instability there's been in the Middle East in the last 12 months, and yet oil prices have been resolutely kind of tepid. You know, we're hedging now at around $60 a barrel out into next year, out into 2020, whereas in the last year we were hedged at over $70 a barrel.
Can we pick up on the Max 737? Do you think the European regulators are dragging their heels, or are you satisfied as a CEO about the jurisprudence that they're showing?
No, I think they're dragging their heels. I mean, to be fair, you know, Boeing haven't been easy to deal with in the last 12 months. I think the FAA and Boeing, but it looks like at this stage the FAA are moving ahead that the aircraft will return to service in North America this side of Christmas or maybe immediately after Christmas. We're struggling to get, I think, EASA moving at the same speed. We've set up a Max users group here in Europe. We're looking for an early meeting with EASA, but EASA seems to be trying to avoid having an early meeting with the user group. So I think EASA need to move with a little bit more pace. Now, Patrick Key and his team are doing a very good job, but the safety issues have been identified. They're being rectified by Boeing. We are one of the airlines with a Max sim here in Europe. We're very confident this aircraft is not only safe, it's a brilliant aircraft. And I think the regulators need to work with us as an industry to get this aircraft back flying and flying safely.
How many do you think? OK, so if it's back in the air in the United States before Christmas, let's run a positive scenario. How many do you think? How many have Boeing said that they can get to you? Let's call it by the middle of next year.
If it's back flying before Christmas, then I think we will be able to get about 30 aircraft in advance of next summer's peak. You know, we're limited. We can take about 8 aircraft a month, about 2 a week. If it gets delayed till after Christmas, then we're probably looking at only 20 aircraft for next summer's peak. So, one way or another, we're going to have considerably less than the 60 aircraft we originally planned, which means we will have slower growth next summer. But in a European market that's, bedeviled by overcapacity for the last year or two, that mightn't be the worst outcome in the world.
Michael, just finish off with a couple of these points on the strikes. It's been a tough year for a whole variety of reasons. So BALPA called off the UK strikes that were set for last month. Are the talks set to recommence? What's been agreed?
Well, they didn't. I mean, BALPA called 7 days of strikes in Ryanair, and had organised 7 days of laughably incompetent strikes that were supported by less than 5% of our UK pilots. I mean, we had not one cancellation of our UK flight programme during the 7 days of BALPA strikes. BALPA had no support among our pilots. Now, we are in continuing dialogue with BALPA, but, if you're going to come in, as BALPA did, looking for 100% pay increases at a time when the industry is going to hell in a handcart, for what is already the highest paid group of people, don't be surprised if these strikes fail. They called off the BA strikes after 2 days where they grounded BA. So we're continuing our dialogue with BALPA. The dialogue is not going anywhere very quickly, but, I think our pilots recognise that they're very well paid. What's interesting in Ryanair is that our rate of pilot attrition has dwindled to effectively zero in the last 6 months, so that actually now we're overcrewed.
Okay.
This winter we're letting pilots and cabin crew go because of the MAX delivery delays. So I think we'll reach agreement with BALPA hopefully in the next, I would say, 3 to 6 months. But there isn't going to be any huge payday there for our pilots, who are already very well paid, have the best rosters in the industry, and have job security that no other pilot group in the industry enjoys.
Michael, time is always a thief on this show, but let's just round off the conversation with Brexit.
Sure.
It looks like we're in election season now. Some would say the risk of hard Brexit is off the table and that we ultimately will end up with a negotiated deal. What would that mean if we go into a transition period, Michael? Nobody knows what's going to happen in 2020, but a transition period and a deal. What would that mean for you? Because we've talked about it often.
I think transition and a transition period and a deal would mean effectively no change. UK consumers and visitors can continue to enjoy the lowest airfares in Europe. I mean, I think the risk for us, though, is that, and I fear this election will result in yet another hung parliament and more delay and more dither. And that could be good in that it will just mean that the transition or the discussions, negotiations continue on ad infinitum. But business, the economy needs to see an end to this uncertainty. I'm just not sure. In fact, I'm pretty certain this election won't deliver an end to uncertainty. It'll probably deliver yet another hung parliament, because fundamentally the UK is split on this, almost down the, it appears to be almost down the middle. But I think increasingly the people who, were misled into believing that you can leave the EU and nothing will change are beginning to realise actually that Brexit has been a stupid policy. It's not in the best interest of the UK economy or the UK consumers.